in another exciting episode of The Fashion Icon. Welcome to the 305, mi gente. You know, this is like a little bit of Spanglish for you guys. And today we're really, really excited. At least I am, because not only do I have an amazing journalist here that she's been, nationwide TV and all that stuff, but she's a wonderful friend. And now she is going around the United States giving talk, empowering people. And we're going to learn a little bit about. With us today, we have Sandra Peeble. Welcome, my friend.
Hello, and hola. I'm so glad you said Spanglish, because that's my style. That's my vibe, Spanglish.
That's it. We're in the 305.
We're 305. It's the way it goes.
Yeah.
Even American people here have a
That's
Spanish
right.
accent.
Exactly. Se van a Hialeah. Anyhow, talking about Hialeah, what's funny, this is off script, but yesterday I was...
Where's the script?
Yeah.
Where's the script?
Right up here. And I have my cheat sheet. But anyhow, I was curious, and I'm looking through it, and I says, I wonder if they have Cuban restaurants in India.
Oh.
Okay. And I look it up, and there's a restaurant in Mumbai that is called Maria La Loca.
No.
And it's a story it's told that is an Indian millionaire that came to Hialeah, met a Cuban girl,
wow,
married her, and it's like, imagine the relationship that they must have, that he named the restaurant Maria La Loca.
Bueno, pero está folclórico. I like it. But I'll tell you, the arroz con leche that Cubans make is exactly the same that you're going to eat in India.
Yep.
I was there in the summer.
Heard that.
I was there in the summer, and the taste, it's unbelievable. It's just like my mom used to make, el arroz con leche. Pero bueno.
The whole thing is that, all of the spices, that's where they really come from.
Of course. And who knows, where the connection came, that the recipes found their way to Cuba. Somehow Cuba's at the center of the world. Yeah. At least it is for us.
Yeah, it is. But anyhow, it's like, tell us a little bit about how did you get started into journalism? What were your baby steps into it?
Well, my baby steps were modeling. I started off as a spokesmodel. I was never the tallest, runway, that type of person, but I always had the ability to speak. I didn't fear speaking. I would do it, even though I didn't do it well. There were times that I stuttered, I spoke too quickly, I had issues, and that's what I teach now. I teach people how to get over that. But the truth is, I was always very brazen about just standing up and speaking, and I think I had ideas. And so I kind of went into the journalism, but I started off as a spokesmodel on TV in Spanish and in English here in South Florida, and I really paid my way through college doing that.
That's great.
And that's kind of when we met back in the late 80s, I believe.
And what's funny about it is that I'm always telling you, because people think of a model, the girl on the runway, or the girl, doing, a photo shoot and all that. There's a lot of different types of modeling.
Absolutely.
And modeling is one of the things that they do, the host and all that stuff. And like that, there's been a lot of girls, they started like that. I can relate to a lot of mutual friends that we have that are currently on TV, and that's how they started.
Well, I will tell you that I still aspire to be a model one day, maybe, the 55 plus. Why not? There's a need for actresses and people to represent, obviously,
well, the
my
whole
age
market,
group.
The whole market is all inclusive now, and it's kind of like I always relate the story about when I go to free advertising for Hollister. It's like frustrating, because I wear a size 36 pushing 38, and they only go up to 34, and all their clothes are skinny. They're not made for real men.
Right.
So I'm glad that my favorite jeans are Wranglers, that I can just go to Walmart and get the damn things.
Hollisters for 22-year-olds.
Yeah. It's
well,
like,
the little outfits, even for
frustrating.
the girls, like these breasts wouldn't fit in those little tops, because this, mature woman.
Yeah. So tell me about what has been your biggest highlight in your career as a journalist.
Wow, I would always say before, this is the first time I answer it off the treadmill, if you will, because I worked at Univision 23. I was local
for a long time,
for 25 years. So I would always say my biggest logro, my biggest achievement, is having stayed in the business so long. But now I'm not in the television business. I'm doing radio. I have had television offers, but I've chosen not to go that route for now, because I want to give it a break. I want to prove to myself that I could do something other than television, because I did television for so long. So there were so many highlights, so many things that I covered, so many lives that I feel I got to touch. And we were talking before we started rolling on the podcast that if you could touch one life, if your story can touch one life, then it's worth the work, right? So if today we're able to inspire one person, then it was worth everything, right? My driving over here, you're investing in the podcast studio, you're deciding to do the podcast studio. If in each intervention that we do and the effort that we do, we can touch one life, then it's all worth it. So I would always say that. But I did great stories. I got to cover, a lot of crime, murders. I got to, I did a story on a transgender child about 7 years ago, before this was a national conversation like it is now. And I have a soft spot in my heart. I realized, even though now it's a political issue, at the moment, I saw this child that really had an inkling that wanted to be a girl when she was 18 months old.
Wow.
I met her at 5 years old, and the family was struggling with whether to let her live as a female. That was just one of the many, many stories that I did in my 25 years, but it was really very exciting, nightly, knowing the community. I always chose to stay local because I wanted to be part of the community. And I think when you're national television, you disconnect a little bit. Even though I did, of course, working in Univision for so many years, I had many interventions on a national level. And I worked on the streaming at the end.
Right.
We brought in the streaming with VIX. So I did many interventions on that. I love technology, so I would always speak about technology on the streaming service. Those are just the stories I offered. But it was exciting. It was also exciting to open up the minds of people about the metaverse, about Bitcoin, all those issues that, I found that my bosses were afraid of. And I thought it was interesting. I'm like, you're scared? What are you scared of? It's just technology.
There's a lot of people that fear not only technology, but it's just the unknown, pretty much.
Yeah, but get to know it. Let me tell you. That's the whole point of what I do. I deal in information, and I can open your eyes. I don't know. I find it fascinating and exciting. It doesn't scare me. I'm a big fan of Black Mirror. I don't know if you ever watch Black Mirror.
Yep.
On Netflix, they have a new season. I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I have to. I didn't know they had a new season. But one of the things that to me it kind of like it hits home, because it's one of the things that I'm always like pushing my limits, always like challenging myself. Like I've never, people say, well, who's your competition? And I'm like,
I feel the same way.
I'm like, I'm sorry, I honestly, it's like, I don't want to sound pompous or anything.
It's not.
I don't even know other photographers, because I'm so into what I can deliver. Right now, I hold, #1 delivery ratio of all pageant photography in the whole United States. But I don't know, I found this out because I hear all these people, and then they did
But you carved that out for yourself through so many years of just focusing on it.
I found out when my daughter started doing pageants, I used to deliver a CD like 3-4 weeks after the pageant. We deliver within 24 hours after the pageant.
And that's when they want it, right? So they just did the pageant. They want to post.
They want to post.
That's what you want. And you want the nice pictures, not the ones that your family took from 100 feet away.
That's kind of thing. So that it's quite unique that, a lot of the people do things for fear. And talking about fear, how did you conquer, or how did you overcome any fears that you had as a young talent, that that they can learn from your experiences?
Well, I did have fears, and that's what I teach now. I teach public speaking and how people can empower themselves through their word and their voice, because it's really something so important, and this is really a tool that we can all work on. People think if your voice quality isn't that good, or if you're if you have this, you're a little bit scared to speak up, that's something that can't be worked on. You were just born that way, and that's not the case. And I'm here to tell you that that's what I work on, and it's really exciting when you see a client have progress and get much better. But for sure, when I first started, I started at NBC6. Well, I first started, let me keep rewinding. I guess NBC6 is where it really came to light, my lack of knowledge, because I was at a very high level at that point. And I remember one time the president, Bill Clinton at the time, came to Miami, and they were playing the song, da, 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 da,
Right.
da. That's Hail to the Chief, by
Right.
the way. I didn't know the name, and for some reason I wanted to say the name of that song, and I didn't know the name of it, which of course now I know, because life, we learn, right? You become more mature, and you gain and gather all this knowledge. But at the time, I just froze. And I was live on television, and it was just the worst feeling on earth. I can't even explain to you. I wanted the earth to swallow me. And I had a lot of incidents like that, And so I just learned to deal with the fear, and people telling me, you speak too quickly. And I started realizing all the things that I was doing just to kind of cover up what I was feeling, which was, at the end, anxiety. And I had anxiety because I lacked confidence in myself. So the way I conquer that, and what I teach, is reading. We have to read. You have to read out loud. And then there's many other little tricks, right?
No,
Of how
not
to
only
feel
that,
your voice.
it's like I've learned through the years that the greatest speakers are those the ones that listen.
That's what you're supposed to do,
Okay.
is listen.
And that's when you see, and I was blessed. I will never ever forget my very first interview. It was Aleida Leal.
Oh, she interviewed you.
She
I remember
interviewed me,
Aleida
okay. It was in WQBA.
on radio.
I had just done the first photo shoot that I did for Celine Dion, and she was asking me, it's like, how does it feel, you as a young man, as Hispanic, to be the photographer now for Celine Dion?
Wow, that's amazing. That's an
Okay.
amazing accomplishment.
Well, my answer was like, that was me.
Because you didn't prepare.
Well, I didn't prepare. I was nervous. I'd never been there before.
And it was radio, so your face
well,
wasn't even
right,
on.
But it was like I was scared.
Of
I
course.
was massively scared. Here I am back in the days. Aleida was like the icon in WQBA AM radio, and she was a super famous in Cuba and all that stuff. So just being in her presence, I was intimidated. So but then she taught me, and I said,
But she was friendly, I'm sure.
Right,
She
no,
was celebrating
She's an
you
amazing-
completely.
She actually asked the questions and answered them for me, and that was too much. But anyhow, and one of the things is that we teach some of the models and all that stuff is like what you were saying, read, educate yourself
And be prepared.
pause. Yeah.
So I work
prepare.
with beauty queens. I work with beauty queens, preparing them for the question, because some people just really don't get it, and also they're very young people. So my client, I've had a client now that I've been working for. I've been working with her for a year, and I see such a difference. But a lot of it is because she's matured 1 year, and from 16 to 17, there's a huge difference. Plus,
Major.
we're working together. I
Major.
talk to her about Einstein. We talk about imagination. We talk about all these different subjects that are opening her mind to different subjects, not just what she's learning in
Right.
school. The world. I'm a woman teaching her. Obviously in a very an intellectual way. Let's
Right,
say,
of course.
her family has hired me, and I appreciate them tremendously. But it's incredible how she's grown, because now she has more of a knowledge base. That's the thing, is when you're so young, you don't know what to say because you don't know that much. You're young.
And the good old phrase of knowledge is power.
Absolutely.
Now that she has this knowledge, it empowers her
Absolutely.
to feel confident
Absolutely.
and being able to speak.
Absolutely.
And,
So we're, little by little, we're working on that. But the number one thing is you have to read. And I tell people, if you're not a beauty queen, if you're anyone really, and you want to improve your speaking skills, read material about your industry and read it out loud. Like, read it, enjoy it, read it, and don't read too much. This is like my number one tip. Well, maybe my number two, but this is a really important one. It's read a paragraph every day out loud, but something related to your industry. So in your case, it would be fashion, or if you're in I don't know, in technology,
whatever the industry
right?
is.
Whatever, if the technology, read a paragraph about whatever it is that you need to read for your work, and read it out loud, so that you're now using the words and you're registering the vocabulary, because that's what we want.
No, there's a lot of things. I go back to when my daughter was 8 years old and she started doing beauty pageants. There's this amazing voice coach that she lives in Hollandale, and we went to her, and it was like a learning. I would go and she would be teaching my daughter, and I was like absorbing all of this
Sure.
lectures, and it was for
It was like a 2-for-1.
8 months. Yeah, well, actually, it was 3-for-1 because Vanessa, the coach that we had at the time, was the owner of Diva Fashion. Right now, she was there, absorbing all of this, and we actually teach a lot of the things, like to as simple as one of the things that we always coach on is another tip that I give some of our girls. Basically, they're on a stage, they're talking, and the judges are down. What they don't realize, and when they look at the judges, they do this. And if you notice, my voice
Yeah.
changed. Why? Because we're contracting our vocal cords. So what we teach them is you stay your voice so you can project your voice, but look at the judges with your eyes, not with your
Sure,
head.
that way you maintain
and then
also
you maintain that, because actually when you're
posture.
saying Baron, it changes, okay? And basically, on that stage, whoever's listening to you it sounds like you're nervous, and even though you're not, and little.
Oh, you're
like you were
nervous.
saying. Yeah,
Oh,
no,
you're
no, 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 no.
nervous.
They are. You
It's
see
normal,
them.
and that's
you see
that's
their legs shaking and everything.
yeah, but
else
it's
is
really
crazy.
important to embrace that, to say, okay, I'm going to be nervous. So I was reading, we were talking about quotes. I think there was a quote that I don't fully remember, but one thing says there are two types of speakers, those that are nervous and those that don't speak. Because, if you're a speaker, you're going to be nervous.
Sure,
I have
always.
a speech coming up for the Airport Chamber of Commerce next Wednesday. And, I'm totally cool about it. I'm preparing it. I know I'm going to talk about this. I speak about voice projection and leadership presence, how to stand on a stage with proper presence and, and own a room and own the energy of the room.
You have to command the.
Yeah, and I'm cool with all of it, but it doesn't mean that I know that when I get there, of course, I'm going to be a little bit like, oh, okay. But it's fine. I mean, I'm going to work through it and say, I'm nervous. Yeah, and it's normal.
Yeah.
I have to, I'm good.
They're all going to be.
And another great tip, if we can give everybody, is know that you're not perfect.
Always.
Just accept that you're not perfect. I know I'm not perfect. I like to say I'm perfectly imperfect.
Right.
And so once you accept that also, it doesn't mean that we don't try to be excellent.
Of course.
We work to be excellent. But we're not perfect. Nobody's perfect. And you know what? Especially when you're standing in a room speaking to people want you to do well. They're actually supporting you.
Yeah, they do.
They're not against you. I know a lot of people feel like, oh, they're judging me. Yeah, I mean, of course, they might think this, they might think that. You're never going to know.
They
Who cares?
paid to be there.
Yeah.
So they want to know. They want you to
Yeah.
do good so they can learn from you.
Absolutely. And,
Okay.
and people will support you. And what we have to just know is that everything is okay. Have trust in yourself. I think we were speaking about
Yep.
that earlier. People are going to think we had like a 1 hour conversation. No. But, finding that stillness within, when you start feeling that coming up, because you're going to have it. It's not as if
It's always going to happen.
But it's a
always
good
gonna
thing.
happen.
They always told me in television that if you didn't feel, people would always ask me, do you get nervous? I mean, 25 years in the last station, but I don't like to say the full amount of years because I'll leave it at 25. It sounds better than the truth, which is many more years before that because 25 was just in the last company. And I would always say, yeah, I get nervous because if you don't get a little bit nervous, that means that you don't have the thing for it anymore.
Right.
You've lost your pizzazz
Yeah.
and it's time to move on.
No, and the other thing that I found as a common denominator in a lot of the people that I interview is that overconfidence will kill you as well.
Absolutely.
Because you'll think you
Absolutely.
know it all, and
Oh, you never know it all. You never know it all.
Yeah.
You absolutely have to leave room. I think there's another great thing that says this is one thing that I always say, is try to be good and allow your greatness to fill in the space. Because if you try to be the best and try to be that overconfident and try to be that, no, just try to be good. And then allow your greatness to fill in the space. And that's something people might have to sit with that concept. Because you might have to sit with it and think about that.
Yeah.
But, yeah, let your
No,
greatness
it's
just fill in the
but
space.
If you just let your knowledge flow, and this is the reason that after years of people asking me to do it, I went to do this because, as we were talking at the beginning, is sharing the knowledge that if we can just change that one life. I'm not doing it for money. I'm not doing
yet.
anything. No, I honestly don't. And I'm talking about money. I want to go ahead and do a shout out for Mirta de Perales, our sponsor.
Oh.
They are an amazing hair care product that they have. They always do amazing photos. They've been our sponsor for all of our beauty pageants for over 15 years. They're always there for us. So thank you, Mirta de Perales, for sponsoring our podcast. And make sure that you hit that subscribe button there. There's a lot of information in here for you. And, it's going to be a lot of powerhouses coming to you in the next few episodes.
And I'll shout out Mirta de Perales because she's been around forever and what a wonderful company. I mean, I know she is no longer with us, but what a beautiful figure.
Mitika, her daughter's there, and
What
her
a wonderful
granddaughter
human
there.
she
The whole
was.
company, I love it that it's very family
Family, yeah.
oriented, and they've always been really good. So now in this new chapter of you, what is it that your radio show? What is the concept of the radio show?
My new me has several, of course, because now we're in a new gig economy. And of course, I'm part of that new economy where I don't only have one job. So I do a radio show on America Radio, 1260 a.m. I'm on from Monday through Friday. 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern Time, or you can also find it on the app. So you can
I was gonna
download
say,
America Radio Miami, and you can listen to it anywhere you are in the world, which is interesting because we have people all over Islas Canarias,
Yep.
Qatar, places so far away that it's like, oh wow, it's incredible. Spain, a lot of people listen to us in Spain, which is really exciting and unbelievable. But really, it's a Miami station, so we speak about politics, mostly
Okay.
like what Trump is doing every day, which is has us like a mile a minute. Like sometimes I have to look up things that I reported on yesterday because I'm not sure if it changed because
It's
the
always
judge came in
changing.
and yeah,
It's always
but it
changing.
makes it so exciting, right? So I start radio which is political, like it's morning talk radio. We tend to discuss politics and all even in Spanish and English, both languages. It tends to be, talk radio
It's
focuses on
Miami. It's a
politics.
melting pot, so it's kind of like
Focus on politics, and I come in the moment where it's like this just barrage of information. Like we have content, we have a lot of content, so it's really exciting.
Yeah.
And then I have my company called Peeble's Communications, and I created a program called Speak Up, Level Up, and that is where I teach speaking skills and I help professionals. Well, level up their game.
What is the whole concept of the speak up?
Speak Up, Level Up. Basically, what I'm trying to accomplish with this is help people level up their game. So it's for people that are already professional and they feel that for some reason, they're not confident when they're going to speak up in a meeting or when they have a presentation, and they just need that little bit of work. And I think that sometimes when we focus on things, you realize, oh, it's so much easier than you thought. A lot of people, especially when it comes to speech, they feel very self-conscious and they think, oh, I was just born that way. I'm just not a good speaker. No, the thing is that you need to stop. Let's see what's good about the way that you speak. And then let's work with exercises on a few things that maybe aren't ideal. Whether it is maybe you need to increase your knowledge base or whether you need better pronunciation or some, the thing is that speaking is very interesting because there's all this happening, right? So these are all many, many muscles and vibrations that we're making with our breathing and with our vocal cords and the bones in our face, even the sinuses, all of this is involved in making the beautiful sound that is our voice. And when we're speaking, as I'm speaking here right now, I feel myself vibrating, the resonance. And that's what we should be feeling, right? So you're speaking in a tone that's powerful and that's credible. So our voice is so incredibly important because the way that you speak will either give you credibility or not, will open doors and will open opportunities for you.
The
if
tone,
you come in,
the projection.
if you come in and you say like this and you're talking like this and I mean, it might be very nice as Marilyn Monroe type of thing.
No.
It has its role. Everything,
Time and
but
place.
it sends a message. So if you want to be a successful person, if you're in sales, if you want to be heard, you have to speak. And then really important, which I tell my beauty pageant queens, you have to know when to stop, because the stopping is so important, right? And what you said right before you stopped will make people feel things. So we have the power to make people feel with what we're saying. And it's really a beautiful, magical thing. And when I see a client improve, like right before my very eyes, it's extremely exciting.
No, and that little pause to get people kind of like
Yeah.
lean over to like, I want more,
Yeah.
And
What's next?
And it's and we're all being, how can I say, prepped by a lot of the really good speakers, how they emphasize certain words and you're like, what's wrong with this guy? Even if you listen to the presidents of the United States when they're speaking, they have their pause, they have their style, they have the mannerism, and then the other thing is gestures.
Of course.
I'm always telling people, especially Hispanics like us Cubans, there's like, keep inside the box. This is like,
Right.
you look
But
at the
you wanna
Cubans
have
talking from far
but
away.
you wanna have gestures.
And it looks like they're arguing and
I
they're
know.
just talking.
I know.
So
That's
it's-
our culture, though.
I
We're like
always-
Italians, like that,
It's like, so I'm always saying, keep it in the box. Keep it in the box.
Exactly. But so many aspects to it, and then it all comes together and has to look natural. But yeah, but the interesting thing is that there are techniques and there are so many exercises that we can do to put people over
So
the
what
over the top.
advice would you give to a model or a beauty queen when they're on an interview? So how can they prepare and what should they do or not do when they're in an interview?
Okay, well, first and foremost, I would say research and prepare. You have to, as a journalist, for example, if I knew I was going to interview someone, I would definitely look them up, find out what everything is about. So, what is the pageant about? What is the goal of the pageant? As you know, many pageants have a different, whether it's a public service or community service, etc. So you have to know what the purpose of the pageant is. Research the pageant and the history of the pageant.
And you see that's I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that is some. I mean, on that pamphlet that I told you that I have, that's all. A lot of the girls, they just going out to do a pageant and they don't know anything about the pageant.
No, you have to know what the pageant wants.
And then they wonder. They go around badging the director, badging. It's like, this is horrible, this and that. It's like,
but you never knew.
Did you?
You have to do your
up
research.
The information. Right. Did you see what dresses are adequate for this pageant? What type
That's
of dresses?
Another thing.
Did you see what is the pattern they're walking? Did you practice with someone? Oh no, I have my coach. Now, does that coach know about that? Not every coach is good for everyone.
Sure,
Not
and for
every
everything.
Coach for every pageant.
Right.
It's like when we take in new girls that that we coaching them for pageantry and stuff like that, and they come from someone else. I go to the extreme of talking to the coach, and I say, listen, because I'm not going to burn my relationship with other coaches because someone else just don't want it. Says, have you worked with this coach? Have you asked them to work with you? And all that, because I don't want to inherit a problem.
Sure.
Because maybe they're just jumping around because they just didn't educate themselves. So that is something very powerful that you're saying.
Right.
There.
First and foremost is know what the pageant is about, and then read. So be ready with your questions. And I always say, have a go-to answer. This is a cheat, but it's okay. This is how we have to do it, right? Because in that moment, I feel that the girls are very nervous. Of course, I've been a beauty pageant contestant myself, and I know that in that moment it's nerve-wracking. There's all these people looking at you. You're either wearing a swimsuit sometimes, or you're wearing this dress that's really uncomfortable, and you've been standing in that pose for a long time. And I know that we're nervous. So sometimes maybe I tell my beauty pageant my clients in this specific area, always have something ready that even if they ask you a question, but you answer something similar. You don't have to answer the exact question, but you have a powerful answer and you end it on a boom. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. So you need to prepare. You need to prepare answers. You need to have topics that you're passionate about. Because when you're passionate, you don't have to memorize. You're going to be able to speak about it because you're passionate about it. And so, like I say, they're tricks. They're tricks, but we need tricks.
That's the other thing that, it's like you have to make sure that you prepare. And I do, I did something crazy with a beauty queen and it worked out like magic.
Wow, what happened?
What happened? I told her, this only someone that is very savvy can do it. Okay? When you have a question that you don't have the answer for and you have the guts to do it, you just look at the judge into the eyes and says, oh my God, that is such an interesting question. What would you do in your case?
Wow.
The judges just went like magic. It worked like magic.
And the presenter answered? The presenter answered?
They just, according to her, I wasn't there. They just all looked at each other and laughed like saying, this girl's got balls.
Right, right. She got off the hook.
She turned it off.
But she got off the hook.
And she actually
which is the main thing.
Right. She they gave her a good score because she turned around and
she was clever.
Yeah,
it was clever.
It was like she was a smart ass. Actually, she went around and she turned it around and all that stuff. And that stuff. One of the exercises that I use, and this is a takeoff from the lady that Elaine, I forget her name, Evelyn, that used to coach my daughter, was a mental exercise, and that is one of the things that I worked on myself. And it's like, ask someone a question. It doesn't have to be the perfect answer. Basically, what we're creating is muscle memory, and it's just like, what's the color of your car? What's your mom's name? What was your dad wearing?
As an exercise.
And it's just like, throw questions at them, throw questions at them, throw questions at them. It doesn't matter. And then you increase the speed, and what you're doing is that you're training your brain to
To come
find
back.
answer fast.
Right.
fast
I like
fast,
it.
Fast.
I'm going to take that.
And,
I'm
and
going
it
to
was
work with my client
crazy
next
how,
week with that.
How it works. And it works because you're just throwing so many information at that. So it's really crazy. So what is next in Sandra Peeble's future?
Well, I just launched the Speak Up Level Up program, so I'm just starting that, and then the idea is to continue mentoring people, through that program, because so that is a recorded 12-step, it has 12 modules, and so after that, I hope to mentor people one-on-one. Through the same business and do my radio show for now. I'm going to do this for a little bit and see what comes up. I'm open for opportunities. I mean, I also do I host podcasts,
Okay.
For a living. Where I'm the host for the hospital, for Baptist Hospital, and I have different clients that I work with. It's really very exciting because I feel like I'm free, right? So I'm not only working with one company. I'm kind of doing all these different
Not
things.
only you're free, but
And
you're having the opportunity to empower other people.
I absolutely, I am lifting people up, and that's honestly beyond money. So I always say wealth. Of course, we need to live, right? We need to make a living, clearly, and that's important to me because I do like being successful. But I think that when we talk about wealth, it isn't only money that you see in your hand. When you're helping people, empowering them,
A
and
wealth
you're doing
of information.
it's a wealth that's on an energetic field. And it's something that I might never necessarily see it, but I'll get it. Whether it's a parking spot or a free dinner from someone, or life gives it back to you. So it's really beautiful the way the energy works. So it's incredible when you work with people and you empower them and you're helping them become more successful and reach their dreams. It's beautiful. It's beyond words.
Well, thank you for being with us.
I
and
loved it.
You stay empowered. You stay with the energy, and make sure that you subscribe and hit that like button. Stay tuned for a lot more information. Remember, a powerhouse of information, Sandra Peeble, that she's in her new journey where she's actually giving all this beautiful, what's the name of it?
Speak Up, Level Up, and I'd love to share a
Speak Up,
QR
Level
code
Up.
with you. That
Yes,
you can share
of
with
course.
your
We
audience
can
if they want to
definitely
book a call.
put that QR code in there in case you want to go ahead and contact with her. There's a lot of powerhouses that she's going to be interviewing and stuff like that. So make sure that you follow her in all the social media. Just go ahead and hit that button in there and scan that QR code that we're going to put right there on the right. So you can follow her and make sure that you go to some of those seminars that she's going to be doing. See you, stay energized, and be fashionable.
For silky smooth skin, come use our brand new line from Mita de Perales body lotion, including hyaluronic acid and vitamin E. Perfect for you.